Behind the Leaf discusses cannabis in terms of education, history, culture, policy, and advocacy. It is geared for adults only. If you are not an adult, come back when you are.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another special guest interview. I am your host today, Steven, and I'm here with a very, very special guest and a friend of mine, Jakki. Jakki is an amazing person, and to properly introduce her, I'm going to have her introduce herself right now.
Hey, what's up, everybody? So my name is Jakki. I am in the cannabis industry. I have actually been in this industry for about 15 years. Recently just left a shop that I loved so dearly, Leaf and Lion. I helped create the shop from start to when I left, just a couple, actually it's been a month, on 4/21, it will be a month of me parting ways. So that's kind of what I immediately left. I'm actually right now linked up with Orange County NORML. Yeah, it's the Orange County chapter of the national organization that reforms marijuana laws. So what's really cool about them is it helps people get active on a local level to support all the people in the cannabis industry, both consumers and also all the employers. Right now I'm starting a task force to help bring commercial cannabis to Orange County.
And that I'd want to lead. What got you into this? You're an advocate, you're a community member. How did you get here?
So, okay, this goes back all the way to like 2004-ish. I have a couple of autoimmune conditions, one of which is called neurofibromatosis, and that affects my nervous system. So I have these, like, let's see if I can show you. Do you see that little bump right there on my skin? So I have many bumps all over my skin, and both inside my body and on the epidermis. They are tumors that are connected to nerves. So needless to say, nerves create sensation, whether it's pain or tingling or itchy. You know, I experience all these different symptoms. And around 2004, one of my tumors on my abdomen was growing quite large and quite fast. So try to go into a bunch of doctors. Doctors are scared to remove it because of the fact that it's attached to nerves. So, for instance, the one I had on my head, they could have only removed the top part of it because they had to leave the base since it's attached to all my cranial nerves. You know, because if they removed the whole tumor, I could have lost sight or taste or, you know, anything, sound. So I started kind of going into this realm of hopelessness because the doctors were saying that, like, I had no hope. They're just giving me all the pain medicine. I was on so many pills from 16 to like 26. They were just kind of, they really had no answer for me. So the best answer was, oh, here. It would be no problem for me anytime to go into any doctor and be like, oh, I have this condition, it's chronic pain. Oh, here's Norco, here's, you know, Darvocet, here's a pain patch, here's, you know, shots. You know, I could just go in and get the Demerol shot anytime I wanted to. I can go in and get morphine anytime I wanted to. So all this stuff was kind of escalating on a larger scale. Finally, the tumor got to the point where it was so big, they had to hospitalize me. And so in the hospital, I was on so much morphine. I was on a pill, the patch, and morphine at one time in the hospital. So they were completely like making me super intoxicated. But needless to say, it wasn't helping the pain. You know, pain is still super bad, and it didn't really do anything for me.
I've been there. It's a terrible feeling. It's this feeling of just grogginess, not even wanting to be awake.
No, it's terrible. I kept on saying, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I asked him, I was like, why can't you just give me weed? And the nurses and doctors would laugh at me when I was in the hospital because they're like, we can't give it to you. And I'm like, but you're giving me heroin. Like, if I'm just asking for a joint or a brownie, like, why can't you just give me that? And, you know, of course, I never got that. They just kept on giving me more and more drugs. When they released me with, I had to sign a waiver saying that I would go to see a therapist about a possible drug problem because of the fact that I mentioned weed so much. Yeah, I know. So in order for me to be able to go and get my first surgery, which I finally found a doctor that was willing to perform the surgery, you know, they said that I had to follow these steps. And I was just like, oh my God, like, okay, well, whatever, you know, sign whatever I can to get out of the hospital. Cause I was in the hospital for 2 months. They had to send me from one hospital in Orange County all the way to UCLA because they were trying to send me to the right specialists. So I get home, and the very first day of me being home, I'm so intoxicated and so heavily narked up that I couldn't even really go to the bathroom. Like, not even number one. I couldn't do anything. Yeah. I feel full. My bladder's full. Like, I have to go. And of course, I didn't do anything about it. I was like, okay, well, maybe this is just normal. Kept on taking the medicine that they gave me. Both my husband and my mom were both at work, and I thought that I'd be fine. So I was like, I'll just wait for my mom to get home. So right when she got home, I was like, Mom, you know, I still haven't gone to the bathroom. I was like, I think I have to go to the emergency room. So that was literally the first day out of the like almost 7 weeks that I was hospitalized of me being home, going back to the hospital. And the doctors were like, oh my God, you're way too medicated. You're never going to go to the bathroom on your own. So they ended up doing what they do. You know, I was able to have to like relieve myself there. And that's when the doctor told me, he says, look, he's like, you could do this 2 ways. He's like, we could admit you and have you withdraw off of the medicine, or you can just do it yourself. And I looked at him and I said, well, fuck this. Like, I'm going to have to do it myself. So I went in my mom's car and I said, don't give me this. I can cry. I will scream, and just don't give me any more pills. And that was like the very first day of the most insane, terrible withdrawal that I've ever experienced. And from that moment on, I was always a recreational smoker. So I was always like, okay, this is the way it's going to be, you know, like I would rather get high than get drunk, and this is just the way that I party. But, you know, then as I started going through this experience, I was like, no, it does cause me relief. No, it does help me. You know, I would much rather do this. So when I was kind of experienced this insane withdrawal and I had all these thoughts going through my head, the only thing that was carrying me through was me smoking weed, you know, and so that helped me through the withdrawal period, which was about, like, it felt like 7 days, but my husband and my mom told me that it was like 4 days. But when you're going through withdrawal, you're not sleeping. So those 24 hours, you're wide awake. And then for the time that your brain shuts off, you're just hallucinating. So it's, you know, it's not fun any moment of that, you know? And so that's when I didn't know anything, taught myself everything. So dove in, and I was like, oh, I can get a medical card, you know? So went through all the measures that I had. And by this time I had, you know, a giant fat medical book. And in Prop 215 land, you actually had to prove that you were a patient. It wasn't as easy as it was towards the end of Prop 215. The beginning of Prop 215 was more of like a struggle, and you really had to provide proof, even if that proof was just like, you know, a pill bottle saying, I take this for sleep, and then you could take that in. But you had to have some kind of proof. I went in where there was no doubt about it. Like, this is a medical thing for me. I labeled my husband as my caregiver. So that was really cool because back in the day, dispensaries, you could have a caregiver and you could be a patient, but you guys both couldn't be the same customers at one shop. I found peanut butter. So my mom would make me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. So, and that was peanut butter, you know, so it was actually with like the really good cannabis infused peanut butter. Luckily that made it more acceptable for my mom, because my mom was super old school. My mom wasn't really okay with it at the time. I was super vocal about it. I had the mindset of, if you judge it before you see me and then you meet me, your judgment has to be different, because I don't fit any of the stereotypes. I don't fit any of the stigma. So if you can just one person at a time change it just by being yourself and smart and educated and, you know, the research why, and then it helps me, right? So I told my mom the same thing, and my mom started seeing it, and then she would tell her friends, look, like, I actually saw it work. So, because she saw me in pain on pills, so many different side effects from the pills. So then I have other pills for those, to then getting myself off of all pills, only on cannabis, really teaching myself how to dose. She really saw my like quality of life kind of go up. I mean, it really was like a giant leap for me, because pills are a trip. They get hold of you. So yeah, so that's kind of like the start. And then when I started really diving in, I got out of my surgeries, or some of the surgeries, then I started researching activism and advocacy groups. I got into ASA, you know, Americans for Safe Access. I did my first lobby day with them. I actually worked at like a cannabis delivery, and this is so rad. So this particular delivery that I worked for, she wanted to be so legit that she actually had me on as an actual employee. She was actually paying business taxes. This is Prop 215 time. I'm telling you, they're way before, you know, and this is like, so many people don't realize that even back then, companies, collectives, people followed rules that nobody instilled. She ended up paying for me to go to with them to Sacramento to lobby. And I was like, how fucking dope is this? You know, your first part of being in the cannabis industry, working at a cool delivery service, they're paying for me to go and do politics, you know, and lobby day, people go out to lobby for everything, right? It's not just like, oh, cannabis lobby day. No, people are lobbying on everything from, you know, equal rights to animal rights to you name it, you know? And I remember thinking, like, this is a trip. Like, people are smart. People want to change things, you know, right? Like, honestly, because you're so trapped in whatever you do, you don't realize that there's a whole world out there of people that do different things than you. People who are active in different groups, people that are a part of different communities, people that are fully passionate about making something possible. I mean, you don't see this, you know, until you go to lobby day and you see people are still working. You see all the suits, they're going about their business. There's meetings, there's, you know, all these different things going on. But all the passionate people that are there to like make things happen, it tripped me out. And that like lit a fire. I was like, fuck, like I want to be like this. I want to know why, and talk to people about cannabis as being a medicine and a plant that shouldn't be illegal. And you know, like
I've been through that transition, that moment when you're like, all right, I want to advocate. I want to tell everyone about this. Not because I'm pushing it on people, because like it helps, and that's really cool. And I love that you were able to share that moment, because I think more people need to realize, like, that's a lot of our community. A lot of our community wants to just help other people. And there's so much science now that there's only more science to be discovered once everything becomes descheduled.
I mean, hey,
Yeah.
I want it off. Where do you want it on the schedule? Where would you be okay?
I want, like you said, off the schedule. Like,
Yes, I want it
like,
off.
well, Jackie, thank you so much for all of your time. Is there anything you wanted to add?
Get active. Orange
Okay.
County NORML is actually, we're doing the Commercial Cannabis Task Force in Orange County. So we are looking for a lot of people to come out and show support. Mainly Fullerton and Anaheim are opening up with different ordinances right now. So there's different ways for you to kind of get active and push certain Congress people to a different side or the other, and just really help spread awareness and education. We're really looking for support from a lot of cannabis families. So whether you're a canna mom, a canna dad, you want to go and hit up your local congressperson, we're going to actually be creating a pre-formatted letter. So stay tuned for that. Make it really easy for you to just, click send if you don't have a personal story of your own as to why things should be moving a little bit more forward into open sales. But yeah, I would say get active, get out there, man. Whether it's LBCA, OC Norml, I mean, it's just really like, get out there, get active, make your voice heard. I don't know how many people do this, but right now, a lot of the council members, a lot of the cities are holding their board meetings digitally. So you can just go on their website and you can kind of listen in and tune in. Anaheim just did it, and it is obnoxious how little our people that make the rules know. So they're not aware of facts. They're aware of stigmas. We are still stuck in refurb madness. Consumers don't realize that Prop 64 didn't make anything legal. There's still tons of regulations and rules around it. And so I would just say, like, get active, go on your local city and be like, when do you guys meet? See if you could tune in and see how ridiculous some of these people think, because we really have the power to help them, increase their awareness and understanding of what this movement is, correct the wrong with the true knowledge, right?
And for anyone watching, it's really as easy as saying, hey, I want to talk to you about cannabis. You got to remember, these politicians, they want to hear from patients. They want to hear from community members of why it's important, because they got a million other things on their head. And where cannabis may be our livelihood or our passion or our medicine, it's not going to be the same impact to them. So we have to speak up. We have to raise our hand. We have to lobby. We have to build these relationships, and we have to support the politicians who support us.
Wonderful.
Because with cannabis, there's always going to be policy. With policy, there's always going to be politics.
Of course. So, but we have to show the true face, get involved, show the true face. That was my biggest wrap up when I heard the Anaheim members speak, was they don't have an actual representation of what this industry is. If they saw the businesses that I saw and the families that are behind those businesses and the grade school kids and the high school kids and the college graduates, and these are families with businesses. This is an actual industry. Like, it's sad that there's not the right kind of judgment out there. Of course, you're going to have the negative, but to hear how much and how falsely represented it was shocking. So it's like, I know there's so much that work needs to be done. That's why I'm super stoked about doing the Orange County NORML task force. But I think that people just need to hear it for themselves, tune in and listen and be like, oh my God, whether it's, in Anaheim, we actually had to vote in an anti-discrimination law because there's too many people being discriminated against in the Asian American culture. So that was actually on the board to vote for. Like, blows my mind.
That's what,
right?
I don't know how I feel about that. What year are we in? We're in 2020?
Yes. So that's my point. So I think that all of us are unaware of the people that make the policies and the people that vote for your city and the people that vote for you, even the president, whatever it is. Pay attention, learn who you can vote for. If you can re-elect people in your city to make things better, figure out how to do that. But yeah, I'd say just really get active, man. Like, we have a loud voice. Together, it's louder. And that's the only way that things are going to happen, is if we combine our voices.
100,000% agree. And you can count on me with anything that you need for the OC Cannabis Task Force. As soon as city councils again, I'll be there speaking. I know Anaheim had a big one where they were to adopt those ordinances. So I'm glad Fullerton's coming online. I'm glad Costa Mesa is going to continue to open up.
Stay tuned. Anaheim just moved it to June 9th because they couldn't come to a unanimous vote. So, but the stipulation on June 9th, and you can tune into this one as well, when they do vote it in on June 9th, it has to pass one way or another. So from now until June 9th, we can convince Anaheim. From now until I think it's July, we can convince Fullerton. So those are the two big ticket guys that if you're in those cities, that's something that you may want to be active in. Hit us up, OC Norml or LBCA, and we'll let you know what to do. Right?
Perfect. Well, Jackie, where can everyone find you? Where can everyone reach out to you on social media or with OC Norml?
Happy Jakki. I'm on all social media platforms. Yeah, Happy Jakki. Jackie Hernandez on Facebook.
Well, thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day, and thank you everyone for tuning in.
Bye guys. Thank you. See ya.
Good one.
I believe we're calling this high history. What are they calling me? Cujo? I like that. Sounds dangerous. And this is going to end up on television. I like that. Because I got quite the vision to tell. See, here's the thing when you're talking to people you don't know well. And that is you have to start the story at the proper spot. Now, y'all think this game has been running for thousands of years? I thought so. Closer to the point, about 250 years. That's when the age of industrialization began. About 1770, somewhere near there. Some would say nowadays that it was an overcorrection of previous religious concepts. That's fair. The thing is, to industrialize something is to lose your love of it, and to be at war with something is to teach you to hate yourself. And that's where this story begins. Now we have technology, but back in the day, they used to live in harmony with nature. And wouldn't you know it, that meant living with plants. But along came a machine. That's you. About that time, we started to disassemble everything. And from that point on in history, we took everything apart we saw. Nature did fight back, but 200 years deep, I think you know who won. But I think to bring any war in focus, you got to make it small. And that starts with a character named Harry Jacob Anslinger, the father of the war on narcotics or drugs. And important to this conversation, marijuana. To make any war understandable, you have to make it small. And if we're talking about the war on nature, let's bring it into focus with cannabis. Or when a character named Harry Jacob Anslinger came on the scene in 1930, they called it Indian hemp, reefer. It was an enemy of the machine. Fresh off of Prohibition, the machine needed a new enemy, something to keep people focused. Enter Harry Jacob Anslinger. Yeah, he's connected. To create a war on cannabis, you have to start a PR campaign. You have to give something that has brought peace through all the worlds and make it the enemy of the people. How do you do that? Like any war, the war on marijuana started with a PR campaign. Anslinger was heard to say that smoking a cannabis cigarette was the shortcut to an insane asylum. A week on cannabis, your mind would be nothing short of a specter of horrors. Sure, that'll get the basic folk. But to really lock something out, you gotta make people hate. Notorious for being a racist. Harry knew cannabis thrived in the music scene, jazz. He knew it frightened white people to see black men succeed. So how do you put a stop to that? Easy. He said it makes darkies feel equal to white men. Come steal their women. We had friends out in Hollywood about that time. Drop King Kong. Remember that movie poster? A big gorilla holding the white woman, right? Hollywood does subtle as good as anybody. You know, Harry conducted that war through 5 presidents. 32 years, if you're asking. But you know what? It is true what they say about karma. 2 years before his death, he was completely blind. His body failed him, and he passed away in 1975. Sure, others have carried the torch. Dare. But here we are. 2020. Who's winning now? There will always be useful idiots. And they will always try and stop something that frees your mind. And that's high history. Cujo out. No, I think, and I don't let loose around people just because, but cannabis is something that creates a conversation, a space. At that time, at that kind of turn of the industrialization, which is the war, it's the war against our world. I mean, it's obvious at this point. That's 100 years deep. So that's the turning point. They probably ran into cannabis. Society had caught up. I think it was introduced by the Vietnam War, I think, to the society at large. And it kind of divorces people from kind of zealot-like narratives, you know? You can't really be irrational on cannabis too much. So I think it was a problem for the machine because they're still building. Right now they're not building. It's built. They've done everything. So now cannabis is... I think so. I think our culture is catching up with it. What is it, like 35 states are medicinally legal? It's in the 30s. I think the people that are in cannabis at a legal level need it or want it to be more mature than it is on a platform level right now. Like people are still making like, let's smoke 100 joint videos. And we need like, hey, this is how you reorganize government videos. You know, so honestly, you see these characters turn up, they're like the fun police, you know? And you know they're not happy because they age horribly, you know? So you're at war with yourself. You know you're not on the right side. You know, you're like victimizing entire races, you know, framing people in a criminal light, when they well know that it brings balance. Cannabis brings balance to the equation. So, no, it's just a lot of sad. I think he grew up probably He probably hated himself, honestly, just speaking honestly. That's the only way you can act that way, is to turn on your fellow man. That's what's hard to believe, isn't it? So many people would just be like, oh, I got mine. You're like, really? I guess when you're talking Anslinger, you do have to mention that he was attached to names like DuPont. Yeah, those names go hand in hand with Carnegie. They may as well be, what was the age of barons? They just stole everything. They just rolled up and stole everything. But no, DuPont, that's old world. I think, I would have said this a couple years ago, but I think everybody can at least take an honest look at it right now. The machine is out of fucking control. And cannabis can check it. I think they know that. Harry Jacob Anslinger, he was connected. He came up through the railroad. His claim to fame is he gypped some widow out of like $500K for her troubles. I don't know exactly what the case was, but they were so impressed by that they gave him like more power. So that's right off the bat. You're like, oh, that's trash network, you know? No, she was a widow or something had happened to her husband, you know, so it was an insurance claim. Oh. Yeah, and Harry, the human thumb, comes to the rescue.
Took her money?
Yeah, I think it was. It had to have been $50K, but if it was $500K, whatever. Yeah, that's kind of like what got people's attention. And you know, railroad, those fucking guys. 32 years on the same job? Like, what the fuck? That's like the entire policy for our world. And I guess I do know a couple of those presidents, or at least I've listened to a lot of speeches along the way. The only person that really stuck out at me, because it's the machine. It's the machine versus anything that slows it down. So yes, you can frame it like another thing that's wrecked a lot of platforms, and not wrecked because it's addressed, but wrecked because it's not framed correctly or by people that are responsible about it, is like, our world is defined by aesthetic, by race often, and as well it should be to profile how to balance things. But they've definitely, in our society, to our detriment, and they still do it, like they'll frame stuff racially today, and you're like, yes, now let's start a productive conversation and fix, what's been ailing us for 200 years. Like, if you look back at the original presidential speeches, they were about race equality. We have not fucking achieved a thing in 200 years? How is that? It's a cycle, right? Anslinger, he's just one more brick in the wall.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to a very special interview. I have a very special guest. We have 70th Assembly Member Patrick O'Donnell here to talk a little bit about cannabis with us. How are you doing this morning?
I am well. And you?
Doing well. Thank you for your time. I'd like to tell all of our viewers a little bit about you. I know you are a Long Beach native and a Long Beach local, so if you want to give just a little bit of backstory about who you are, that would be awesome.
Sure. Very quickly, I am your representative in Sacramento. I am the Assembly Member for the 70th Assembly District, which covers the cities of Long Beach, Signal Hill, San Pedro, and Catalina Island. It's a great place to live, a great place to have been born, and a great place to represent. A little bit about me: I have a lovely wife, 2 daughters. They're high school age. My background is that of a classroom teacher, 20 plus years. Still am a teacher. I'm on leave. I go back a little bit in the fall, middle school mostly. Keeping it real. Keeping it real. Middle school. But I was on city council for about 10 and a half years, and then was elected to the state assembly in 2014. There I now sit representing the greater Long Beach area. Proud to do it, and proud to be here today.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. So while you're up in Sacramento right now, you're pushing something in partnership with the LBCA and Long Beach in general. Can you tell me a little bit about AB 3330 and explain where it is in the process and kind of why does it set itself apart?
Great. Well, I'm not up in Sacramento today, but when I am up in Sacramento, I am pushing AB 3330. So AB 3330 is something that grew out of Long Beach. It is AB Assembly Bill 3330. That's the number of the bill I am working on with your team down there, the collective, and others across the state. And very simply, it is an effort to rein in those collective delivery services that are not legal. They are not registered. They are not paying taxes. They are not doing the things we need the delivery services and collectives in general to do across the state of California, and in fact are required to do to be good operators. And what we're really facing is a health and safety issue. When people say, hey, these people who are out there delivering don't pay taxes, and yes, that is true, they are not. So the money to regulate the cannabis industry isn't coming in because these nefarious actors are out there conducting deliveries on their own. But there's another side to this that people need to pay attention to a lot, and that's the health and safety side, because that means this cannabis, for the most part, we believe, is not being tested. And so the cannabis that you see going through the collectives, being sold in different formats, is tested. In fact, I visited a testing site up in Long Beach. It's been about 9 months, a year. And it was, one of the most interesting experiences I've had. I have no idea right, how much this stuff, if you will, was tested for a lot of other stuff, be it metals, chemicals, poisons. And that's really important. And that's to ensure that the cannabis that people are consuming, be it on the recreational or medical side, is safe. So the cannabis they are ordering might not be safe. And so this whole regulatory scheme through the legalization process was set up. And what we're seeking to do is get everybody to follow that regulatory scheme. So number one, we have the taxes necessary, the revenues necessary to regulate it so that it doesn't fall on the taxpayer to regulate it, so that operators are operating in a fair and safe condition, but also that cannabis which they consume is safe.
Yeah.
So this bill that we put together with the collective association and others across the state seeks to rein in these nefarious operators by shutting down the various advertising outlets, okay? or at least forcing the various advertising outlets, those advertisers that advertise for what I'll call the nefarious operator, the unlicensed operator, the unsafe operator, going after them to ensure that they're not advertising for the bad actors, the people who aren't following good policy, paying their fair share to regulate the industry and ensuring that the cannabis that they're delivering is safe. So again, what the bill simply seeks to do is go after those advertising outlets, be they online, be they billboards, be they newsprint media or some other type of media. It seeks to regulate them and ensure that they don't advertise for the bad actors.
Amazing. And I think that's going to be super beneficial and helpful for propelling the industry in the correct direction. Where currently is AB 3330 in the process right now?
Great question. It's been an odd year due to COVID-19, no doubt. We took a good deal of absence from Sacramento. So it seems things aren't moving as they usually would because of the COVID-19 crisis. So typically during the beginning of the year, which happened in this case, we put the bill across the desk. It got a number. In this case, it was AB 3330. And then it's set for a committee hearing. Well, those committee hearings got delayed. So we just had the committee hearing a couple weeks ago. We had the committee hearing, and AB 3330 came in. And what happens in a committee hearing is I walk into the room, and a few others do too. In this case, there was some communication through Zoom or other ways of communicating. Mm-hmm. And what happens is the support for the bill weighs in, and the opposition for the bill weighs in. So certainly I'm in support since I'm the author of AB 33. I presented it, talked about the problem, talked about how this is the potential solution for that problem, because we want to make sure that the good operators are taken care of and that the bad operators that might be delivering unsafe cannabis are not rewarded for their behavior and stop their behavior. I presented it before the committee. It's a committee of assembly members. It's the Business and Professions Committee. I made my case. Other supporters made their case. The opposition made their case in this hearing. And ultimately, the committee voted. And we got enough votes to get it out of the committee. And now it's moving on to the Appropriations Committee. Okay. And that'll be coming up very shortly within the next, probably the next week or so. It'll be before the Appropriations Committee. And it'll be go to another vote. Should it make it through the Appropriations Committee, it'll go to the floor of the Assembly, where all Assembly members will have a chance to weigh in on this bill. Then it goes over to the Senate side, should it make it off the Assembly floor. And it goes through the same process, committee, full body of the Senate. And then it would go on either to the governor or back to the Assembly, just for a concurrence and amendments, which is not that big of a deal typically, and then on to the governor. So it goes through both houses ultimately, and then on to the governor. So again, there is opposition to this bill. Not everybody likes it. So what we're doing right now, yesterday I spent about an hour plus on the phone talking to the opposition, saying, gee, how can we seek to work with them? Because there are some legitimate concerns they brought up. Gee, what if they didn't know someone was unlicensed? What if someone became unlicensed after they'd signed a contract to advertise for them? Yeah. Should they be held accountable for that? So those are the conversations that we're having. Actually, even today, those conversations on a Saturday are being had, because we're on a tight timeline, and so that's where we are. So we're moving forward to appropriations. I think June 2nd is the date for appropriations.
Perfect.
And that's a committee.
Okay, that was awesome. The next question. When it comes to the census, how will the census change legislation?
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know if the census will specifically change this legislation, but it might inform future legislation on a variety of topics. So let's talk about what the census is first. It's simply counting people. It's mandated by the Constitution to be conducted, the U.S. Constitution, to be conducted every 10 years. And that's the process that we're going to engage in. What we're doing is we're counting people. And we often count some dynamics that are out in various communities, income levels, different ethnicities, ethnic backgrounds, where they are in the income scale, and some other factors too. But why do we want this data? Well, when the founders wrote the Constitution, they wrote it because every 10 years they want to redraw the congressional lines. And that will happen again in very short order. They will take these numbers that they have and redraw the congressional lines. But other governmental agencies and legislative efforts, use this data too. Because what we need to know is, gee, if there's low-income people in our community, we need to see how many are there, and how do we bring these people up? How do we create a path for these folks to the middle class? And also other attributes to those communities. Sometimes ethnicity matters because if we know that the Asian community, right? We know that certain segments of the Asian community are doing well, maybe, but others aren't. So, gee, how do we address, from a governmental perspective and often legislative perspective, the needs of those various communities? And that would pertain to all the ethnicities across our state and across our nation. So what we'll do with that data is often shape legislation, inform legislation, so we can best serve the people that live within the boundaries of the United States. So the simple answer is the census is used to redraw lines for legislative races, be they city council, county, state, or federal. But the more long answer what we use that data on a continuous basis for is to inform legislation, budgets. Where do we put our money to help people? So that in a nutshell is what the census will do. Now, in this specific piece of legislation, the census won't be done by the end of this year. We won't have those numbers most likely. So it really won't inform this piece of legislation, but it will inform all pieces of legislation once we do have the final numbers.
Perfect answer. Thank you so much. You did mention it goes all the way down and has effect on a local level too when it comes to local level politics. What is the importance of getting active and participating in local elections and voting for local elections?
Well, I always say don't agonize, organize, educate and activate, very simply. And my background is that of a teacher, right? I taught middle school for a lot of years, then bumped up to the high school, taught government at high school. And it's fundamental to me to have an engaged electorate because that's what maintains our democracy. And today, I think we're seeing that so threatened. by the fact that not everybody's real informed, quite frankly, or they might think they're informed, or they're getting their news from maybe specific sources that really want to shape their opinion to achieve a desired outcome that may not even be the best interest of the individuals who's voting. To me, that's just real important stuff where I come from. Like I said, don't agonize, organize. And when you vote, you're getting organized. Get your thoughts organized. Go in there with your piece of paper and vote, because your vote matters. Because how those the levels of government, right, respond to you is based on how is really based on how you voted. If you voted someone in there that doesn't really care about your issues, well, you're not going to, see a lot of action on your issues. Yeah. So again, voting is so important. People died for your right to vote. People shed blood for your right to vote. So that alone is reason enough to vote. But also, voting is somewhat of a selfish act. When you walk into that ballot in a booth, you vote in your own interest. Okay, if there's someone that wants to lower taxes on the rich and raise taxes on the other levels of the income strata, I know where I stand on that issue. I don't dig that. And if you don't dig that, you should be walking in that booth and being, as an informed voter, find out where people stand on your issues, be it abortion, be it cannabis, be it education. All those kinds of things take place in the voting booth. And that's on our voters. Yeah,
that's awesome. My last question is, we're going to go back to the cannabis a little bit. In partnership with AB3330, what are some of the issues, or what do you believe is needed to propel the legal industry in the correct direction of success?
That's a great question. And let me talk about where this bill came out of. I actually went into a collective association meeting just because I hadn't been there much. And I said, I need to build a relationship with these folks because I'm their representative in Sacramento. And I guess the point I'm trying to make is I don't know. I don't have all the answers to that. What I need is I need folks from the collective association, other folks in the community to inform me how we can best regulate and build a responsible industry. And it's headed in that direction, no doubt. I mean, there's been a sea of change as how people conceptualize marijuana. Even the older folks, right?
Very true.
We're against dopes forever, right? Or like, hey, a much more open mind, maybe using it themselves on a medicinal or recreational level. So again, I'm going to throw that back on the collective association and others involved in the industry, and even who aren't involved in the industry, to help inform me. AB 33 isn't the end. It isn't the single bullet. It's just one step in probably a greater process, and how we really build an honest and positive industry that serves the needs of the public and makes a profit for folks, because it is a business. So again, I don't have all the answers, but I think this is one of them. And this, again, it derives out of just a meeting I walked into just to say hi. And people started saying, hey, we need this. So I went to work. And there will be other things we're going to need to work on going forward, but I look forward to doing that.
That I think is one of the best messages I've received recently, because it's all about communication. Like you said, you came in and you were receptive and we were vocal. And the more vocal we are and the more we support the politicians who support us is how we will see our industry propel and grow. So thank you so much for that, Mr. O'Donnell.
Great. And real quick, I should point out the city prosecutor, Doug Halbert, has also been a great partner on this effort. And let's face it, 12 years ago, there was a lot of different thinking out there amongst all of us, quite frankly, a lot of us. And that wouldn't happen. So I want to say I certainly appreciate the partnership with you folks for sure. Also UFCW and City Prosecutor Doug Halbert on this effort to really bring some wise, common sense policy, not ding people as much as just to rein some things in to make sure that we're safe and legal.
This has been an amazing and super insightful interview. I want to say thank you for taking the time on a Saturday morning.
Thank you. And I thank you to the Collective Association for all that they're doing to bring awareness, education, and also giving back to the community, certainly through jobs, economic prosperity, but also in a variety of other ways your folks give to the community. Thank you for that. And thank you for being a partner in this effort.
Thank you, Assembly Member. And I hope you have a wonderful day, and we will talk soon.
You both as well. Thank you.
And hello, everyone. everyone. Welcome to another episode of At the Root of It. Today, we have a very special conversation. We are together with members of the LBCA and LA NORML to talk about a bill that just made it through the committee. It is Bill AB3330. And I'm going to pass it over to Executive Director, Mr. Steve Neal, to kind of get this conversation rolling out.
Great. Thank you, Stephen, and thank you all for joining us today. Really excited to be here together to talk about regional collaborations and the need for us to kind of coordinate our agendas and working together to make sure that this industry thrives and that the legal market survives. And I'm Steve Neal, the Executive Director at the LBCA. So AB 3330 is introduced by Long Beach Assembly member Patrick O'Donnell. And it has been authored by the city attorney here in Long Beach, Mr. Doug Halpert. And its intent is to go after illegal advertising, i.e. weed maps, or anyone on a format similar to that and hold them accountable for basically advertising with agencies that undercut the legal market in the pure sense. That's what it is. And we got out of the Business and Resource Committee last week, which was a very huge step. And we're finding out when I leave you gentlemen, I'll talk with the folks up in Sacramento, but it looks like it's going to move to the hearing of the Appropriations Committee, which will attach whatever the financial cost is to the state. And it's very low financial cost. So that's why it should be appealing. It's not something that's going to cost the state a lot of money. That's part of the way that it was crafted so that it could move through their agenda. But this will be another big hurdle. And that will probably be like June 2nd, June 3rd, June 4th. And all of that is changing as we speak, just like the COVID information is changing as we speak. So it's a great bill. Our membership, and Greg and Adam can talk to this, our members have done testimony that added to what the language in the bill addresses. And, you know, it's our first attempt at moving something in Sacramento, and it seems to be picking up some speed. So at this point, I'd like to maybe turn it over to Greg or Adam, and maybe you guys add what your perspective of where we are and what you think.
Hi, I'm Greg. I'm on the board of directors for the Long Beach Collective Association, also a retail operator in Long Beach. So I just want to give my perspective from an operator's point of view, not just an operator who's in the legal market, but an operator who I've been in this industry since 2009, which is, you know, well before the new regulations that came down. So I get it. And one thing that I would never be a part of, and our organization would never be a part of, is to perpetuate the war on drugs and try and put more regulations in a market where we're struggling to survive. I think this is kind of the complete opposite of that. I think everybody is making a conscious effort that even, you know, if they were operating at 215 and the majority of people are making an effort to get into the regulated market, but we're at such a disadvantage. So one of the main things is, like, you know, the advertising, and I've talked to operators for years and years, and I don't want to keep pointing at weed maps, but, you know, it is the elephant in the room. They're the biggest platform. When I started in the industry, I don't know if anybody's heard of Weed Tracker, but that was the main digital platform that people would leave. It was the first Yelp type site for cannabis reviews. So I'm from the Weed Tracker days. And, you know, we were pretty much like the same time that Weed Maps got online, we did as well. Like, I get it. I'm an entrepreneur and I'm a business guy too. And I want everybody to be successful. They are super successful. And I know they're making an effort to, you know, not advertise for illegals, but just because Weed Maps, I think, is, you know, moving in that right direction, that doesn't mean that there are not other platforms that are going to be soliciting the sale of illegal cannabis. We feel, because we work pretty closely on giving these same sentiments to the city prosecutor who is crafting this language, to let them know that that's not something that we're about. You know, if this is going to be another whatever piece it is to continue the war, we're not about it. So from that angle, I hope that everybody can kind of see where this bill's intentions are, and really, because right now what's on the books really doesn't have enough teeth to be able to enforce. I think the way this one's written is fair, not only for cannabis operators, but also for advertisers. Well, too, it does give people a chance to correct problems and, make sure that they're not getting fined unnecessarily, unwittingly, I should say. That's just pretty much my perspective from a operator standpoint. If there's any other, an angle that I didn't hit, I'm more than willing to be able to answer best of my ability.
The language of the bill goes after, it was great how Greg gave some context and talked about Weed Tracker. So Weed Tracker was the platform then. Weed Maps is the platform today. It'll be something else tomorrow, right? So basically what the bill is going after is this kind of digital platform where advertising is being done that benefits illegal operators. Right. And it's not going to cost the state money when you have a prosecutor that's willing to enforce it. And I think the uniqueness of the bill is that here in Long Beach, we're hoping because it's moved from here that there'll be some type of enforcement in this area. Right. And we want to make sure that we work with that in the future. But what we found also has been because of it's a pretty big city and the LBCA has crafted some political capital and works closely with the municipality to try to the best of its extent to make the legal market thrive. So I think this gives us an opportunity, one, to move the bar, right? To move the bar in the direction. And I think it will be uplifting for the entire community as well. And when we work regionally, like this, look at how the city is responding to COVID. Whatever happens, like if Long Beach responds, they're basically saying the governor said this. As soon as he says it, boom, they respond. LA, boom, they respond. Pasadena, boom. But they're all in unison. They're not doing anything outside of what the governor is doing. So if the governor says it, those three are basically right in line, right? And I use that as an analogy for how we need to operate and kind of focus and build our unity and our strength. Because together like that, they're each one of those entities reach a certain benchmark that the governor has. He has these 7 benchmarks. Long Beach might be doing well in 3. The county might be doing well in 2. And Pasadena might be doing well in 3. But when you put them together as a collaborative and they say, we're all working together, then it raises their, that's kind of how everything is moving right now in this region. And that model will work for us. If you guys follow what I'm saying, that model will work for us because we all have to work collectively. Most of the problems that we have are legislative problems. We're going to have some kind of legislative fix to it. So we have to keep that in the back of our mind is how do we move a legislative agenda that benefits us too and is not costly to us. So all of us getting together and being more strategic in what that is, what that looks like is a beautiful thing.
So are there major concerns that in regards to this bill from you guys' end?
Ian Rassman, Deputy Director of Los Angeles NORML. So I'll say something from a very personal perspective, not really a position of LA NORML, but for me, I hear what you're talking about, Greg. So I have the same problem. I provide merchant services in general for credit card processing for lawyers, restaurants, bars, all that stuff. I do also do the limited specialized products that are available for dispensaries. And here's the thing, I have to collect a license from every dispensary that I do business with. I got to know that they're legit. those are, the requirements of the financial sector that, if we're going to be providing these tools, we have to provide it to licensed dispensaries. So it's all straight up about providing to the licensed market. And I get undercut all day long by the shady people who are providing a similar thing to what I do, but it's not the same. But they undercut me all day long. They're like, well, I got this guy saying he's going to do it for 2%. And I'm like, yeah, but you're breaking the rules, man. I'm not going to do that.
And as somebody who knows how important it is to play by the rules, not just for everybody to be on that same playing field, I mean, makes all the difference, So.
Yeah. So I love that portion in there because that applies directly to me. I'm already compliant with that, but I would like to see that enforced for all of, my competitors because they're, not all of them.
Absolutely. And look, here's the thing. There's nobody that you've ever met that probably would rather be working in the 215 market than I would in the current structure because there's no money left at the end of the day. And I'm a retailer and I'm working on cultivation and manufacturing and distribution in the same location. But because those things are not in place, and I don't want to go too deep down the rabbit hole, but my tax implications, the numbers, if I owed double what the profit was to the IRS. So I owe money that is non-existent. So I've been working for the last 2 years and my retail has put me in debt. So if you ask anybody if they'd rather be operating in I'm that guy. I would rather be, just pay my 10% of the BOE and, let's make the rest happen. But if you're being held to those standards and I'm being held to those standards, we feel that everybody has to be, or this thing is not going to work. And if the goal is to make it not work, then hey,